And it's Kevin KAYR Robinson.
Hello, everyone. It's Nicole with the Change Podcast. This is Insights into Empowerment. And I am sitting here today with Kevin KAYR Robinson. And I have read his bio, I've done some due diligence on him, and this is going to make for a very amazing interview. Very fun time. So I don't want to read too much. I want Kevin to explain to you. So Kevin, welcome to the podcast and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your platform. I find it very, very interesting. I'm looking forward to sharing my story, having this conversation. My name, as you mentioned, is Kevin KAYR Robinson. I am a real estate investor and entrepreneur and the author of the USA Today best-selling book, Can't Break Me. And I am a kid that grew up in Philadelphia. My mother raised 7 children on welfare. We moved about 18 times before I turned 18. So I had a sense of uncertainty, periods of living without electricity, without heat, and periods of just always worrying where I'm going to
Wow.
end up next. I was able to turn my life around from running the streets and being a knucklehead to ending up on Wall Street and becoming a real estate investor. And that's the short end of the story.
And I love that. It's such an amazing story when you tell it like that. And what is internal in you that created this you rather than a person that chose violence or chose drugs? What was it, your mom having something to do with it?
I think that's a great question. And I talk about it in my book, Can't Break Me. And I remember a critical moment. I was in 8th grade and we lived in a studio apartment. We had a hot plate, no stove. We had a bathroom sheet, no bathroom door. We had a bathtub, no shower. And 15 people were living in that space, competing for space with rats, roaches, and flies. And at that time, my stepdad, Father Charles, who I talk about in the book, he said, "Don't be an F up like me and everybody around you." Because multiple siblings dropped out of school and were, whether selling drugs or got pregnant 14, 15 back to back. And we're all living in this dire situation. And he said, "Don't do as I do as I say." And I can see the hopeless in his eyes and that tiredness, like he wanted to get out, but he just couldn't do it. So at that moment, I took the perfect from the imperfect person and I shifted my mindset. During that time period between 4th grade and 8th grade, I had 3 B's and 3 D's and 1 C because I'm cute and no A's. And I was skipping school, drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana and cigarettes
Ooh.
because I didn't love myself. So at that moment, I shifted my mindset and I talk about it in my book, Can't Break Me. I adopted the 3 D's: desire, discipline, determination. And that way I was able to shift my mindset because desire is what gets you fired up, make you want to do more. But desire alone doesn't get you results. And discipline is when you adopt routines and you actually do what you say you're going to do. And determination is what carries you through when you face setbacks and it's easier to quit. So I went from being a disobedient student and child to graduating valedictorian from a high school, debate captain, track captain, cross country captain, school president, class president, and also played some football. And I won a scholarship to Bowdoin College. And then I start interning on Wall Street every summer. So I was able to shift my mindset. You were asking, what was it? That was that pivotal moment right there.
Well, the one of the things that you just brought up too, that this is kind of one of my core talks as well, especially being a healer. Um, Loving yourself, self love. You have to love yourself, but not everyone does. And I even had to learn to love myself, which came much later in life. Through a divorce and through looking at a big picture that was very painful. As a younger person, how did you come to the realization that you indeed needed to love yourself?
So, what I like to always stress is that it wasn't a moment where everything magically clicked. It was more of a series of small realizations and having tough conversations with myself and coming to the realization that nobody was coming to save me. There was no blueprint on how to get out of this situation. And so I came to the realization that if I continue down the same path as everybody around me, I knew how my story would end. And I had decided that I was not going to let it end that way. So I realized that if my life was going to change, it was going to be because I changed. And so what I did is I was willing to be vulnerable. And so I first was vulnerable. So therefore I started speaking up and asking for help and realizing that I didn't know everything. The second thing is that I came to the conclusion that I needed a personal board of directors, a team of people who are mentors, sponsors, teachers, nurses, a number of people that can teach me how to be disciplined, how to finish high school, how to get in college, not only uh, that, but also pour into me in multiple ways. Like for instance, I went we get lunch with one of my mentors, Damon Pace, and I talk about in a book, Can't Break Me, and he would say, KR, get whatever you want. And I would say, can I get a rent fried rice? And he said, what? I said, a rent fried rice. And he said, he asked me, do you mean shrimp fried rice? And I said, yes, but you say it weird. And the reason was I didn't know how to enunciate words. So what I did is I reached out to an English teacher in high school to spend 1 hour a week with me to teach me how to enunciate words. And then when I got to Bowdoin College, I asked a theater professor to spend 1 hour a week with me to teach me how to enunciate words because I wanted more. I desired more for myself and everybody. So it was first becoming vulnerable and then realizing that I needed to get in nurturing environments and also needed a personal board of directors. And that's how my life started to change little by little.
Wow, that really is amazing that you a lot of people don't see their faults or their what they can do for themselves. But one of the things you said is about vulnerability, and I always tell people that's the new superpower. People
Yeah.
want someone not just vulnerable but showing who they are, not who they want people to think they are. So I love that. Do you talk about that in your book?
Yes, and that's part of the reason why I wrote the book. Because you'll see this beautiful story. You'll say, oh, he grew up poor. He was able to go off to Bowdoin College and then work at Goldman Sachs, one of the top firms, work at a hedge fund, graduate from Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth, an Ivy League institution, become a multimillionaire. And you see this and you're like, wow, he has always had this beautiful life. But I named the book Can't Break Me because I want people to know that just what you see, the finished product, is not necessarily my journey. So I went from survival mode to structure to stability financially and emotionally. But stability is just the outcome that you get from getting to the point of structure. Where I actually, when I went off to Bowdoin College on a full scholarship, my brother, 1 year, my junior, he went to prison for attempted murder and he was sentenced 12 to
Ooh.
20 years. And he served his time. And as of this book, he's back in the system. When I was at my internship doing investment banking, my junior year, I came home and I took the ninth week, I took my mother out, my sister out. I bought them a washer, a dryer, refrigerator, a range. I said, no more laundry mats for you guys. I'm going to be like Oprah. So I said, our life is getting better. I also took out my 15 nieces and nephews at the time. I rented a limo. Of course, it was old. And we went to the arcade and I told them, play as many games as you want. And then after that, I took them to the Chinese buffet and they got orange chicken. They got fried frog legs. They got Hawaiian punch, orange juice. And I told everybody, this is a new chapter of our life. And I went back to my internship. I had that final week. And on that Friday, they said, congratulations, KR, you got your job. And I ran to the nearest payphone. I called my mother. I said, Mother, you're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this. And we are going to be rich. Our life will never be the same. And she said very calmly, KR, not right now. I said, what do you mean not right now? This is the best thing in our life. Not right now. She said, Lindell, the father of your sister's children, he just shot her 5 times in the face and he has a hit out on our family and you have to come home. And so my heart dropped. You can hear a cotton ball hit the ground and the phone dropped out of my hand and was just dangling by the wire. And I wanted to ask, why me? It's like every time I try to do better, it's like the world takes more than it gives. And so I had to decide at that moment, I went home, and thank goodness, after he killed a taxi driver and he killed my sister, he turned himself in at a church, and this was on national news. And so we came from hiding, and I remember his daughter. She said, "Don't be strong for me. Be strong for our family." And she was only 4 years old. And so at that moment, I had decided,
Oh,
is going to be a defining moment, or is this going to be a moment where I build something bigger than me, something that will outlast me, something that will change my family's trajectory? And so I decided to keep going. Even though Bowdoin said you could take time off, I went back the following week and I had interviews at investment banks, didn't tell them about my situation. I got offers. And then I went back to Bowdoin and got all A's except for one A minus, enrolled in counseling and therapy, and graduated and was awarded the President Award, the most prestigious award for uncommon contribution to the community and academic excellence. And then I took a full-time job at Goldman Sachs and worked for a hedge fund and went to the Tech School of Business at Dartmouth, and was able to get to a point where now I own over 160 plus rental units. And so the book explores how I have to deal with grief, with uncertainty, identity, with limited resources, building community. I'm not self made, I'm community made. So I'm a reflection of all the people that have invested in me. And so
wow.
I
That, you know what? I love that. I love that. How you've included people, because I don't know. I do a lot of things, but I'm never really solo. You know, I've got daughters, I've got family, I have really good friends, and that's a culmination of who made me, if you will. You know, so and so made the sense of humor, so and so made the dedication, and it really is. Even though you did all of it, you do need people kind of holding your back or watching your back at times, and it sounds like you really had that.
Yes, absolutely. And it pretty much was, you're at the point where you understand my family will feed my belly and feed my soul. And what they lack, I will go outside and get. And so that is the combination of understanding that no one stands alone. And I'm only as good as my team. And so throughout my life, I've been very fortunate to be vulnerable and be willing to be coachable, and humble enough to say, I don't know all the answers. I'm an imperfect person just like everybody else. And every day I'm trying to make sense of how do I become better, not for myself, but also for others. And so those are like some of the themes I explore in the book. But of course, I lay out a blueprint of, if you live a disciplined life, this is what happens when you embrace the idea of being disciplined and also structure, and also becoming resourceful, and also understanding what is your mission. Because once you understand your why, then it will help you get through those tough moments when it's so much easier just to give up.
Wow. Now, you mentioned the word humble, and I've known some people that have worked on Wall Street, and that would not be in their vocabulary. So, how do you keep yourself grounded to where you are humble, appreciative, and so well rounded that you can look around you and not just see self? How do you
Well, I think
maneuver
that what
that?
is so beautiful is that I hire a bunch of family members, and one day my brother and I were driving in his car, and I had said, "Look at the building with my name on it. It says KR Apartments." I said, "Isn't that so cool how they put that up there?" He said, "Fool, you the one that put that up there." I said, "Be quiet, enjoy the moment. Right? Nobody told you to mess up my moment." So I think when you have loved ones, whether they're friends or family members that really care about you, they will always keep you humble. They will remember you. And they tell you, I used to change your diapers. I don't care what they call you outside, but I know who you are. So I think keeping people in your life that have been with you through the tough times, the good times, and the bad times, will always keep you humble. And I love that. And so
Wow.
I've learned that my competitive advantage is the idea that you have to be vulnerable in order to do better. So I understand, in order to do something I've never done before, I have to become someone I've never been. And so I'm always reinventing myself. And when you do that, you have to become humble. Like, for instance, I didn't know about like how you get into college and all these different things, or the first in the family go on the plane and go off the main, and finish in college and all these different things. So it was always a moment where I have to step back and say, I don't really know what's going on here. So I'm going to need some help to navigate it to get to the other side. And when I got to Goldman Sachs or a hedge fund, or even when I became an author, I start asking people, how do you do X, Y, and Z? If I want people to read my book around the nation, what do I need to do? Um, and so I think I've benefited from that approach.
Oh yeah, it's amazing just listening to what you're telling me now. Goldman Sachs came first, then the book. When was the book written?
So my book came out May 12th, 2026 this year, and I was
Oh,
very
okay.
it was a two-time consecutively USA Today bestseller, so it's been well received across the nation. So I'm very, very excited about that. And it was very unexpected, but I definitely approached it using my same model: be humble, stay hungry, get out there, get your message out there, be authentic. Um, and so I did the Goldman Sachs thing, then I worked for a hedge fund, then I started buying real estate. And so this is like almost like my third chapter. Okay, so now I'm going to try to write a story. I tell people when my first stage of my life was the learning stage. You're trying to learn as much as possible. You're going to school and all those different things, and you just start your career. And then the next thing, you're in the earning stage where you have your traditional 9 to 5, and you need that to take care of yourself. And now I'm in the building of the legacy stage, even though I'm fairly young, but it's that different stage where I don't have to rely on my 9 to 5 to survive. I get to sit back and say, all right, I want to write some articles. I want to write a book. I want to give speeches. I've spoken at Yale University, Morehouse College, Bowdoin College. I'm going to Dartmouth in a few days. I've spoken at various institutions. So now it's like, okay, how can I help other people beyond just myself? Of course, starting with my family, but then beyond that, I need to help others. And so that's how I stay humble for new opportunities to grow.
Wow. So you are a motivational speaker.
Yes, I do motivational speaking. I do keynote speaking. Yesterday, I did an event on Saturday for the By the Hood camp, which is for 5-year-olds all the way up to 21-year-olds, teaching these young people in Philadelphia inner city financial literacy. And so
Oh, wow.
so I'm educating sometimes, I'm doing workshops, I'm doing keynotes, I'm doing motivational speeches. I speak to an array of people. I'm going to talk to the Juvenile Youth Center in a couple of weeks. So I talk to corporations. So it's a great way to share my knowledge, whether it's about how to become an entrepreneur. I'm going to be talking to Goldman Sachs in the fall. So it's a very fascinating period in my life.
I'm curious, what is like your soft spot? Would that be children with maybe similar backgrounds as you? Do you have an affinity to gravitate towards them because you know what can be done if you put your mind to it?
I think my affinity is for people, regardless of age, whether they're older or younger or white, Indian, it does not matter. I think I have a soft spot for people who feel as though that they don't have a voice, or they feel as though that they're stuck, or they feel as though that life has been too heavy and that everybody has counted them out. And so that just resonates with me when I connect with people, regardless of age or background. When I come across people like that, like sometimes I'll give a speech and someone say, you know what, I was having the hardest time. I went through a divorce and I'm trying to rebuild, reinvent myself. And KR, your speech touched me. Or I'll talk to like a group of high school students, and a 10th grader will come over to me saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. Do you really think I can change my life? I have all D's and F's on my report card right now. But the mere fact that you were able to do it makes me think that, look, I don't always have to be the perfect student or the perfect person to change my life. I said, absolutely, you could do a 180. And I said, just send me an email. So for me, it's connecting with those people that feel as though they're at a point where they're stuck. Of course, I like to talk to all the other groups as well, but those people really touch my heart.
Yeah. And, just out of curiosity, how many people at Goldman Sachs do that?
Well,
You
I
know,
would say that a lot of people who are very, very successful, the problem is some of us, we help, we may donate financially or what have you, serving on board. But I think that if we start to really act like a community where we're present in these under-resourced communities, whether it's rural Maine or if it's inner city Philadelphia, if we are present with our time, our presence, it will be so beneficial to these people. in these communities.
Oh,
So it's like people don't know
absolutely. And, you know,
we're more
seeing a
separated.
check is one thing, and that, yeah, that's amazing to see a check with money on it. But when you're reaching out with a heart to heart connection, there's no amount of money that you can put on that when you change a life by listening, being present, and reading each other's heart,
So I think I think very
and
few
I think
people
that,
do
I
that.
think
So
that's
we
what
have
we're
to bring
doing.
that back together, where we're visiting various communities and stay present. Like I did a talk on Saturday. Sometimes you'll have like a keynote speaker or a motivational speaker. They'll come in, they'll talk for their hour or 30 minutes, and then they leave. I wanted to be present for that community, which had like 100 people, like children and parents. And so I spent the whole day with them. So I eat lunch with them, I eat breakfast with them. So it's not always in a formal context. We're able to be present. So they can ask me questions. We can Google, we can laugh. I didn't just come in and leave out like I'm Hollywood. So I think that we need to get back to that type of way. Of course, it's okay to do your speaking gigs, but you got to do also things that will help various communities.
Yeah, I love that. With my girls, they're older now, but I taught them, kindness is free, and it doesn't matter if it's giving someone money, buying them a Gatorade if they're thirsty, or just opening a door. And I remember my daughter came to me one day when she was probably 10, and she says, Mom, I held a door open for a lady and she didn't say thank you. I said, but
Oh,
that's not a reflection on you. That's her. You keep doing what you're doing. You're doing the right thing.
and in my book,
So
I
you can change a
stress
lot of lives.
I 100%
Go
agree.
ahead.
I'm glad you taught your children that. I talk about core principles and values that I think we all should adopt. So some people say treat people the way you want to be treated. I don't like that phrase. I prefer that we treat people better than the way we want to be treated. Because if we all go out there and treat people better than the way we want to be treated, it's going to have a ripple effect. So I may say, oh, I walk by someone and just say I'll give them something. No, I want them to. They're going to remember how I made them feel. So I want to treat people better than the way I want to be treated. And if we all do
Yeah.
that, and I have a saying, if you do what's necessary, then do what's possible. You'll find yourself doing the impossible. So imagine we have 100 people together and we're all treating each other better than the way we want to be treated. By default, our community is going to be better off.
Wow. Your vision is amazing because it's not seen that way very often by very many people, especially with, what's going on in the world right now. But I absolutely love that we must treat people better than we are treated. And the ripple effect is a real thing. People are like, that's woo 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 or whatever.
Yep.
No, it's not. It's not. When you make someone feel good, you're making yourself feel good, but
Yes.
oftentimes they'll be just like something clicks inside them. Something
Yes.
clicks.
Yes.
So,
And
what is next for you? You've done so much.
well, I think what is so important for me is that build that legacy, having an impact, and using my own platform influence to help shape the current generation, a future generation, so we can have these dialogues. Because I think that a community, if we have a compelling story, compelling stories is what bring us together, especially with the 250th anniversary. So we must use our ability and our gifts to bring people together, not necessarily focus on everything what pulls us apart, but say, hey, we want better for ourselves and for our community. And so I think for me, it's out there saying, how can I have an impact? And not only in my immediate family, but also for the larger society. And so I'm spending time in various communities having these tough conversations about how do we become better, how do we become resourceful, how do we help those who do not have, how do we help those with resources become more present in certain communities. And so I think I'm spending a lot of time thinking about that. How do we transform people's lives? You hear a lot of people talk about generational wealth, which is nice. It's a 40 to, I buy something and 40 years my family get to inherit, which is nice. But that to me is a north to south concept. In my book, I Can't Break Me, I coined the term uh, transformational wealth. where I go out and be really successful and I'm able to start a business and
Mm.
hire family members and friends where I can transform their lives today. So my brother, he only has a high school diploma. He didn't go to college. He was bouncing around, sold drugs, did all these different jobs. I said, look, I'm going to help you get your life together. So he got his real estate license. And then when I do $1 million deal, he gets a commission, a 3% commission. So he gets $30,000. He and his wife and 6 children were able to move to a house in the suburbs of Philadelphia that they own, that now is stable. They've been there for years, like since 2019 or what have you. And so the kids get to go to a better school. He has a stable life. He also worked with me. But also when his son and him walk by a building, they say KR Apartments. They don't just say, hey, look, that's my uncle's building. I also give them equity in my LLC. So they have ownership. And so his in-laws, they work for me and they do landscaping. They were able to move out of their rental and now they own a duplex and they have a tenant. My other brother helps with landscaping. He owns his house. My aunt helps with cleaning. But I also hire friends and people that are not related to me. But the main thing is that I want to transform people's lives that are close to me, but also people outside. Because it's one thing you're going and give speeches to the whole world, and then the rest of your family at home is struggling, they're starving. So I said, let me make sure I take care of my core. And now it's going to be an overflow. I can help even more people. And so I think I'm very focused on this transformational wealth idea where we're transforming the way we think, the way we operate, and it happens now, not 90 years, 50 years from now.
Gosh, that's amazing. You have, your heart is so big and you have so much amazing information. Is there any one thing that you're most proud of,
I
or
think
just
that
all of it?
by the age of 29, I lost both biological parents, both
Oh,
sets of grandparents, and 2 siblings. And so I had to grow up very fast. Um, and so I'm extremely proud of the fact that my sister, who was murdered by the father of her 3 children, that those 4 children graduated from high school, even though their parents didn't. And 2 of them have graduated from college, and the other ones have taken college classes, and none of them they don't have any criminal history. They're becoming productive citizens, running their own race at their own pace. But I also have a total of 38 nieces and nephews. And I think that seeing the next generation start to do better, whether that's my brother Champ and his children, where one is in the Air Force, he's did like multiple years, and his son, he texts me, his son just got into college. And so he said, I can't believe it, I'm a college dad. And so I think that I really, really love that, but also seeing that first at home, but also seeing on a larger scale. Being, I can never imagine that I will grow up in that studio apartment with just a hot plate. And now I have buildings with my name on it, and I'm a USA Today bestselling author 2 times in a row, and I'm able to travel and share my thoughts around the world. So it's been, every day has been a miracle, and I'm very blessed. And I always tell people, if I do nothing else, I think I'm gonna be content. So I think I've had a good run. So I just count my blessings and just keep moving forward.
yeah. And I love that you say that. But I think your momentum is going to take you in just bigger and better things. And instead of a trickle, you are going to be a waterfall. You already are, but your love for humanity really shines through in this interview. And I think that's what I admire the most is that heart and that love. And you are so pure. I will tell you, you are so pure. There's
Oh,
there's
thank you.
no nothing in you that says ego on my shoulder.
That's because I think when you
So
had to grow up like I did, and even like I was just telling someone the other day at my talk, my sister, my oldest sister, just passed away. We found her; she overdosed on heroin, and that was December
mm,
2025. And so I tell people, this is not something that is easily I got over. This is something I deal with on a regular basis. Identity, grief, purpose, love, happiness. You can become bitter. Even like some family members thought about like when the murder of my sister, they want to hurt the person. But I tell them forgiveness is not necessarily for the other person, it's for myself. So I don't hold myself as a prisoner and torment myself about something that I could not have control. And so I think that is so important that we start having these communities, talking to each other, even platforms like yours, which allow us to share our story. They're universal things that all of us have in common. None of us are perfect. We have issues, but we keep fighting to make the world a better place. I think that we have to remind people that is what makes us great. Not necessarily trying to make you into the best version of Nicole or the best version of KR. I tell people, meet people where they are. So like I have a family member that just likes cleaning. If that's your thing, then that's your thing. If you like being a real estate person, that's your thing. If you're a landscaper, that's your thing. But be the very best. You don't even if you don't want to get a GED, I encourage you to get one. But if you don't, I'm not going to beat you down for your personal decisions. If you're at least trying to be a decent person and work with what you got. And I think that is once we get back to that type of thinking, I think all of us will be better off. You don't expect people to be perfect or always at the top of the game, but we expect them to have share our core values that we want to be a decent, productive, nonviolent, loving, growing, strong, educated community.
Beautiful. And we're already at the end of this interview, and I could talk to you for days. It's been so interesting, and it's really been a blessing just to get to meet someone like you, because you're few and far between. So thank you for taking the time to come on this podcast. I love doing it because I always learn something from everyone, and you are no exception. And to our audience, this will be up on YouTube within a day or two. Are links for Kevin, his book, and I would love for you to reach out, click on that link, and change your life. So Kevin, thank you so much for being on today. It's just been wonderful. And
And if,
I will be
and if I can
I will
say,
be following you, my friend.
oh, I appreciate it. If I can say one thing I think is so important about Can't Break Me is it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And don't ever
Ooh,
forget this. Things done well are done soon enough. And you have to run your own race at your own pace. That you have to remember that because people always start to say, I'm not doing enough. I'm not much. You are somebody. Don't ever forget that.
wow, beautiful. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your
No,
time.
thank you.
And
You're an
you've been a blessing to our audience.
amazing host. You guys can reach me at KAYR Motivates on all social media. KAYR Motivates. And also my book Can't Break Me is out. Please check it out. My website is kayrmotivates.com. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.